Our next panelist is Tammy Newmark. Tammy is president of EcoEnterprises Fund. Tammy, you've been in this field for 3 decades. And in the field of small-scale eco-enterprises, you just launched a new fund, EcoEnterprises Partners. Can you say a few words about this fund and tell us what's different? What is it you hope to achieve and why? What's in place now that wasn't in place 30 years ago?
I have to step back a bit. So 20 years ago, when we launched our first EcoEnterprises Fund, and that was under the umbrella of the Nature Conservancy, the Nature Conservancy being very forward-looking and using various different tools to address conservation needs. We saw that there was a bubbling up of entrepreneurial adventuring in the biodiverse areas that we were working in the ecosystems, in the biological corridors, and we realized that those businesses needed venture capital. They needed investment capital. Whether they were an agroforestry company, ecotourism, aquaculture, wild harvested products, organic agriculture. As you could imagine, many of you in the room, 20 years ago, pre-Forest Stewardship Council certification, pre-sort of the mainstreaming of organic agriculture, we invested in some of the first organic spice companies, organic cacao, organic flowers, the first algae companies. You know, you needed to create a portfolio of deals, or we called it a portfolio for the planet, as illustrative models to show that you could create a venture fund at this scale where you had companies, small-scale startup companies that cooperated, partnered with local communities, because that vested collaboration is critical for the sustainability of that local natural resource base. And so at that time, you know, it was a proof of concept for the Nature Conservancy. This was 1998 when we launched our first fund. And at that time, many of the senior board of trustees were partners at investment banks or Goldman Sachs and others. And they would say, well, what is the Nature Conservancy doing going into the venture capital business? And we realized we had our task in hand. And so we spent the next 10 years building our first fund and building our first sort of prudent, we constructed a portfolio of various different models of these small-scale companies. And for those that are in the investment venture capital business, you know that vintage year between September 11th, the economic internet bust, the economic global meltdown at the end. Well, I'm proud to say that by the end of those 10-year period, we invested in 23 businesses. We broke even on our portfolio, investing $50,000 to $500,000. And all of our stakeholders and our investors said, well, now it's time to spin off from the Nature Conservancy, the whole team. We created our women-owned fund management unit. We spun off and then scaled up our second portfolio. EcoEnterprises Partners 2. As Jamie just mentioned, we just launched EcoEnterprises Partners 3, which is 3 times the size of 2. And we have successfully in Fund 2 demonstrated another 11 companies. And what we have seen over this 20-year period is the scaling up of ventures, this replication of models, these vested investors, various different sort of mainstream of investors that come in, with EcoEnterprises continuing to play our sort of value add, tailored capital, working with these small-scale businesses, biodiversity, nature-based companies in these regions, as we then build our third portfolio coming up in our new fund. And so, you know, when people approach us and say, okay, well, you know, you're dealing with all these small-scale companies in Latin America. You know, thus far, we invested in 35 companies and deployed about $50 million in those companies. But when you really look at the benefits that are generated both as income that comes back into the community, as well as sort of the long-term conservation. All of these small companies have conserved and preserved and reforested 10 million acres of land, and working in these capacities. It's really something to demonstrate to other business leaders in the region, as well as what we find so promising is that we're seeing sort of that next generation of business families that are from the region that are getting into much more progressive, much more environmentally friendly, nature-based businesses, and doing that in cooperation with the local community.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Tammy. Congratulations. Just a little small add-on. If you were now to project into 2030, wildest dreams come true, what does it look like?
Well, we've seen a lot over time, but as many of our colleagues here are saying, that there definitely needs to be an acceleration and sort of a ratcheting up of helping this trajectory that, has been upward, but it is little by little. And so what we are seeing and what we try to encourage and facilitate is these companies going into the local capital markets, because that is critical in trying to sort of get sort of more local monies, rather than subsidized monies coming in, but the local financial institutions trying to really help the development of alternative sources of capital through seed capital, through family-run businesses, through more equity coming into these businesses. And so from my standpoint, I'm very encouraged by seeing these trends, as well as the trends for these companies, in the superfoods, for instance, or other wild harvested products, or in ingredients, or we invested in a blue coloring company that gets its product out of some biodiverse material. But what you're seeing is more sales into local markets. So more regional sales rather than export sales. And this helps strengthen the companies and enable them to grow and to scale. And that's what, really is a very positive sort of step for the future. And so if you could actually get this going and keep the momentum going and bring in more capital at this level of the small scale businesses, I think that that's really something that could sort of push us forward.
Great. Thank you so much, Tammy.